Big news coming out of Fulton County, Georgia. We got two major stories to tell you about. One is Nathan Wade because he's in a whole lot more trouble, and the other has a little something to do with what's going to happen in November of 2024. I'm talking about the voting process. So this is delicate territory, and we have to be very careful, right? Because everybody gets a little bit of their nose out of joint when we talk about these things. But the reality is that Georgia just went through a pretty in-depth review, and there was an oversight panel that just came out with its findings, and I want to share this with you. The Georgia Oversight panel basically found some, quote, hiccups as they looked back on the 2020 election. This is from the Georgia Recorder. This one here you see is the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Georgia Election Board set to decide allegation of double counting in 2020 recount. Fulton accused of errors, and now it seems that they did find, unfortunately, that the state election board, they reprimanded Fulton County, ordered an independent election monitor for the next go-around come 2024. They did this because they found that the county scanned over 3,000 ballots twice during the recount of the 2020 presidential election. This coming to us from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Now, this decision came through with a 2-1 vote, and it basically resolves the last of the remaining investigations into the 2020 election. It's kind of a big deal because it's upsetting, concerning that they would have scanned 3,000 ballots twice there in Fulton County, Georgia. Fulton County, of course, being a place that we know is not necessarily the most hospitable to Donald Trump. I want to share with you some excerpts from the discussion between both the oversight panel and the people who conducted the investigation because it's worth hearing. If we go to this first one, you hear basically one of the oversight board members saying, well, what happened to these votes? Like, were there no receipts or records of some 380,000 votes? And it's curious when you hear what the response is. We'll talk about it on the other side.
There's 3 counts and there's 3 different numbers, and I would think that the third count, the machine count 2, which is the third count, coming right off of the hand count that took those very same ballots and ran them through the big ICC fast scanners, should have come up with the same number, and it did not come up with the same number. So the counts don't agree. 1, 2, and 3, they don't agree. For the investigator, do you agree that every vote should have a ballot image?
At this point in time, no, it wasn't required.
I didn't ask if it was required. Do you agree that it should have a ballot image?
Again, the ballot images should be recorded. But again, the vote is captured in that paper ballot. The ballot image is not the vote. It is merely an electronic picture of the ballot so that we can go back and people can review them. And so it's part of the paper trail that we use to confirm the accuracy of the results. So yes, right now, ballot images are required to be uploaded and preserved so that they can be produced in response to a public record. So we would expect there should be ballot images for every ballot. But again, in 2020, this was brand new equipment that counties were getting used to using. They weren't necessarily always doing things correctly. Some of the ballot images were not necessarily preserved, but again, the purpose of this investigation was to determine whether or not a violation of the election code occurred, and we have presented our findings.
Great. That still doesn't answer the question. Should every vote have a ballot image?
So, you can understand the investigators are sort of like, well, we're not supposed to weigh in on that. And, I get it. They're not necessarily supposed to weigh. I think we can all agree, though, can we not? Like, there should be an image. There should be an image, because if you need to do a recount, if you need to go back and have a paper trail, it seems kind of logical that you'd want to have that. But the idea that Fulton County actually, they had to be reprimanded for counting votes twice. I mean, Fulton County, what the heck is going on down there? Nathan Wade and Fannie Willis. Again, we'll get to that story in a second, but there's more here associated with this Georgia Oversight panel. because according to one of the members of the panel, there were a lot of missing votes that they couldn't really account for, that they didn't have receipts, if you would, for. And she brought this up in the discussion with investigators today. I want you to hear this bit of sound as well.
Do you know why 380,761 ballot images from Election Day machine count are not available?
We subpoenaed Fulton County for all of their ballot images. We received approximately 518,000 ballot images.
From Election Day?
Those were for the recount.
Those are from the recount, but we have no ballot images for 380,761 ballots from Election Day, correct?
What was subpoenaed was the ballot images for the recount, because that's what this case was about, not the election day.
Does Fulton County know why there are not 380,761 ballot images from Election Day?
As with the investigators, we have not been apprised of this allegation. This is the first I'm hearing about it. I have no idea what the basis of that allegation is, and so we would have to we can't answer that at this time.
Would
So there
Fulton
you go.
County
That's the
agree
answer
that
on that
every
one.
vote
In other
should
words,
have a
they
ballot
weren't
image?
told to investigate that, so therefore they didn't have any information about that. But hey, you know what? It's a little weird, right? And I get it, like that wasn't part of the scope of their investigation. But I think that this woman is bringing up some important stuff, and it sounds to me like they got to get their act together before November. You know what? Time's running out. So Lara Trump has said from the RNC that she's going to have basically poll workers in all of these places, especially in places where they might be worried about some oddities. And I think that's really important to do under the circumstances. And of course, the state is requiring, the Georgia Election Board is requiring that they have an independent monitor there in Fulton County in light of this news coming forward that they double counted 3,075 ballots, other allegations of irregularities as well.